I'm going to bring on Karen, Millie-James. I know you know about her. I know you know about her book. So we'd like to put your hand together for Karen Millie-James, please. Hello. Hello.
Just turn the lights down.
Yeah, we need the lights down. Have a seat. Evening.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Oh, my mic's on.
Is
Yeah,
it
I'm
on?
fine.
Okay, we're going to start with your book, which is here.
You're going to ask me loads of questions, aren't you?
No.
My mind's gone complete blank.
Has it?
Yeah. Have I got to
Like
ask?
the pages.
No.
This is the book, The Shadow Behind Her Smile, which we all know about, which has been, we've had a bit of a journey coming here. It's been a few weeks, a few months, and has it taken its toll on us? Not us personally.
Well, not me personally, no.
But it's been a roller coaster.
It's been good.
It's been
We've had
it's
fun.
been fun. It's been excellent.
And it's doing well.
It's doing well. So I'd like to start with some questions. I've got my notes here. So excuse me if I keep looking at my notes, everybody.
I wish I could look at mine.
Well, you can. There they are.
No.
You can look at them. You professional you. So we're going to have a few questions from the audience after.
Sure.
And we're going to have some, we're going to read a little bit from your book as well. Okay. But first I'd like to ask, what made you start writing? Obviously you're a businesswoman, so that's a bit of a leap from business to writing a novel.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about background.
Well, I don't think there was ever a point when I thought to myself, I'm going to write a book. It's just something I've always wanted to do, and it was something in me from a long time ago. So I started writing this in April 2013. So it's a 3-year journey, really. And with regard to my business interest, my business has been going for 24 years, and something I've built up over the years. And so I've used the experience from my business to incorporate some of the stories in the book. So that sort of aspect was quite easy, really.
So tell us a little bit about the background of the story.
The background, it's about a businesswoman, quite a strong businesswoman. I'm not sure where I got the idea from, though. Don't start on that. Sorry, I've forgotten the question.
It's about you, really, isn't it? The businesswoman, the strong businesswoman.
Yeah, so the idea, I suppose, I started writing originally because I wanted some memoirs for my 2 brothers and my sister from when we were younger. Things that they wouldn't have known. And they're sitting, my 2 brothers are sitting in the audience there, John and Lawrence. And they were quite young when our father died, so there was a lot of things that they didn't know, and I thought I'd start writing some things down for them.
Right.
But I ran out of things to say, so I decided to turn it into a novel and have some idea of where the protagonist wanted to go. So, and it's built from there, really.
Okay. The character, Sydney, characterise her from being in for the audience.
Well, she's, as I said, a strong businesswoman. She knows what she wants, and she gets behind the truth of what she investigates. She's relentless in her journey. She's also had some tragedy in her life. I suppose I used the experience of losing my father when I was 12, so she's had the same experience. So I was able to write about that. But she has some vulnerability behind her, which I think is very important, because you can't just have someone who's very strong all the time. You've got to have something behind that person.
Absolutely.
So that's where I got that sort of idea from.
Okay, and there's obviously some other characters
Sure.
in the book. How many roughly can you remember?
Vaguely remember. Yes, I mean there's her 2 children. She's a widow.
What ages are
They're 14-year-old twins.
Okay.
So some of the experiences with her daughter is what I've had with my daughter, Rosanna, who's sitting over there.
So it's all family affair today.
Yes. We've had, her husband was in Special Forces. He was out in Syria and Afghanistan. We have the sergeant who was with him, Sean O'Connell, who's a great Irish character. I love him. And he's a very strong character as well, sort of a bull of a man. Then we've got the people in her office, not based on anyone in my office, I have to say. There's some business people that she's getting involved with, but there's a lot going on behind the book, such as insider dealing and fraud and blackmail, sort of every day.
Every day in the Bournemouth office.
Absolutely every day, yes. So it was. I think that the characters sort of evolved as the book went along, to be honest.
Okay. Sydney talked a lot about her father in the book. Was that intentionally?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because I hadn't realised when I was writing it that how much her father was in the book. And maybe it was unintentional for me, or subliminal, I don't know. But obviously her father had a huge influence on her life. And I suppose I'm using that experience for me.
And what about your mother's influence?
Well, my mum was a widow at 39, 40. So she was very young, and she brought 4 of us up single-handedly. So she was a very, I wouldn't say she was a strong woman, but she was selfless in bringing us up, and we've learnt a lot from that, I think.
I'm sure you have.
All of us.
I'm sure you have. The title.
Yes.
The Shadow Behind the Smile. Tell us a bit about that, how you came across and wanted to name that book.
I think I'm not sure if how I actually came to get the name of the book. It was something that sort of came to me, I suppose, in a flash. I think the title is very important for a book, because it's the first thing people look at, and it entices the reader to buy the book. The Shadows Behind a Smile is twofold, mainly because Sydney Granger, my protagonist, has had tragedy in her life. She's now a widow as well, and she's looking after her mum, who has early onset dementia. So there's a lot going on in her life, and a lot that she has to put up with. But through it all, she smiles through it and doesn't let people know what's going on in her background. And also, if I don't know who's read it yet, but she is a psychic medium.
Everybody. Well, they will do once they get.
She's also a psychic medium, and that's the sort of shadows of the spirit around her.
Okay, excellent. So we've got the title sorted. I would like you, we've discussed it, you're going to read.
I am.
A little prologue of the book.
It's not going to be very long, so.
No, it won't be very long. And well, over to you.
Thank you. So this is the prologue, which I thought was a good way of enticing people. I keep using that word. So this is 4 years earlier in the book. Black storm clouds gathered ominously overhead, as if to signal that the day was destined to be catastrophic, as if it was waiting for the hand of God to reach down and fire the wrath of Hades. That was exactly how Sydney felt, as an incredible sense of premonition washed over her, and the terrible vision that had repeatedly inhabited her dreams, which she had chosen to banish from her mind, came flooding back. The crunch of tyres on the driveway shook Sydney from her daydream. This was it. This was the time. It had happened as she knew it would, beyond a shadow of a doubt. She grabbed the sink in front of her with both hands as the blood drained from her head. Everything slowed down, as if she was still in her dream and the world had stopped spinning. Sydney removed and folded her gloves and laid them carefully on the side of the sink, trying to delay the inevitable. Turning around, she pulled down the sleeves of her jumper, ran her hands through her hair and walked from the kitchen to the front of the house, her steps slow but sure. Poised in the hallway, she waited for the doorbell to ring. She took one glance up the stairs towards the twins' bedroom, relieved to know they weren't there, and watched through the glass in the front door as a black saloon pulled up outside and 2 men in brown army uniforms stepped out, one wearing captain's insignia, which she easily recognised. The men straightened down their jackets, placed their caps, glanced at each other, and walked towards the house, their steps hesitant. Opening the door, she said nothing. One held out a brown cardboard box towards her, willing her to take it and relieve him of his unwanted charge. Mrs. Granger? The other asked. Sydney stood frozen to the spot. Her mouth wanted to work, but if she spoke, it would mean finality. I'm so sorry, ma'am. The words floated in the air as Sydney fell to the ground.
No.
Thank you.
You've actually been talking about doing an audio book, so you can do
Perhaps I should do it once.
Maybe you should do it yourself. Just want to look at these banners behind you. And we've had a number of reviews, 4 and 5 star reviews.
We have.
A book that they loved, they couldn't put down. Gripping, which is an encouragement. Obviously, it's just been released and it's actually free until tomorrow.
Till midnight.
Till midnight, probably a bit later on Amazon as well, on Kindle version, but you don't need to go there because you can buy the book here.
Exactly.
Personally signed by you. I'm going to talk about the cover of the book. Not the title now, the cover, because we
That's
did have
been a journey.
This has been a journey.
That has been a real journey.
Because obviously we've been working together on it, and we did have the first cover. If you want to
Well, we
carry on
had the
and tell the
first
audience
cover
about
and we
that.
decided to do a sort of market research, primarily on Facebook, to see if people liked it. I think it's very important because the book cover, apart from the title, is the first thing that people look at, and it draws you in. So we then decided, did we want red or white writing? And we put it out to everybody.
Indeed.
And it was sort of 50-50, but the white sort of had it.
Yeah.
But then I looked at the cover and I really wasn't that happy with it, I have to say. I thought, if you remember, it had a woman with big red lips, and I thought it was a little bit too much. It wasn't a sex book, it was a thriller.
That's the 50 Shades of
Yeah,
about.
but it could have been 50 Shades or 49 Shades. So Peter, who's a designer, my husband, he found this image and we decided to go with that. And I'm really happy with it. It's been well received.
Yeah, it has been well received, hasn't
yeah, I think it's a fantastic cover. Absolutely delighted with it.
And it is so important to have, I mean, that is the first thing a reader will look at.
It's sitting on a shelf in a bookshop, and hopefully soon it will be in Smiths and Waterstones, etc. It's going to draw people in, and that's the most important thing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Regarding books and authors, who actually inspires you regarding your writing? Who do you look for when you go to Waterstones or Smiths? Who do you look for?
I love thrillers. I love adventures. My 2 favourite authors are John Grisham and Wilbur Smith. I like their dramatisation. I like the way they describe events. It's very, and I suppose I appreciate now how much work goes into writing a book, because I finished this last July and we've had 6 months of editing and reading over and over again. So I can imagine what they go through, but I love their books. I mean, my background is literature and languages, so I've always read classics. I've always had that sort of wanting to read. I don't like all these sort of chick lits and things like that. So historical novels as well.
Historical novels as well.
Yes.
So regarding writing, what you're saying, has that changed the way you read books now?
It does, yes. I mean, number one, you can easily spot mistakes or over-exaggeration of descriptions, because sometimes it just gets too much. I'm very conscious of structure in sentences. And again, you have to, when you write, you have to imagine that you're reading the book, because when you describe things, you have to put yourself in the place of the reader. So it's no good saying something like the sky is blue. Well, we know the sky is blue. You have to say, what's happening in the sky? Why is it blue? What shade of blue? So what time of day, night, are there clouds, this sort of thing. So I think that's so important as well.
So was that a challenge, getting the description onto the book? What was the most challenging part of the writing aspect for you?
I suppose it's structure, and the more you got into the book, the more I wrote. So once I reached sort of 40,000, 50,000 words, it was really difficult to keep track of anything. I used to write maybe 1, 2, 3 chapters, go back over it, read it again, write 3 more chapters, and then my characters needed sometimes changed, because how they dealt with things at the beginning of the book was not how they dealt with things maybe 6 chapters in, because their characters evolved, and as you live with them you learn how they behave, how they react to different circumstances.
So the main character is Sydney Granger.
Yes.
How has she changed when you first started writing a book until now? Has she developed in?
She has.
She has developed in a way that's made her stronger.
She's much stronger.
Did she have twins before when you first started, or did
No,
they
she
come?
always had twins.
She always had twins.
Yeah,
okay.
we like the twins. She's changed because you see how she evolves from being someone who's lost her husband to building up her business without him to then falling in love, hopefully. So there is some love interest there.
There's romance in the book.
There's a bit of romance, yes.
Is there any hanky-panky in the book?
No, maybe a page or two.
A page or two. Any particular, what page numbers are there?
Chapter 9. Chapter 9.
Oh, that's quite early on then.
Well, get it over and done with.
We were talking about editing and so forth. Your editor,
Yes.
who unfortunately
She's not here.
can't be here, and her name is?
Elaine Denning.
Elaine Denning. From what you were telling me, she used to email you at odd times of the morning. I mean, we're talking about 2
Middle
or
of the
3
night,
in the middle of the night. And her sleep pattern is pretty erratic, nocturnal. But she actually edited the book like it was her own.
She and I have formed a bond
Yeah.
that you have to have with someone who's working with something that's so close to your heart. And she'd come up with ideas, as you say, in the middle of the night. She'd email me. I've woken up, I've just thought of something, or I've just had an idea, or I think you should do this extras chapter, or you haven't mentioned about so-and-so. So she, and then of course I'd wake up, and then I'd have to start sending her emails back.
So you used to wake up mid-mornings, early mornings?
Yeah, in the middle of the night, all of a sudden I'd have an epiphany and think of something that I think, oh yes, I should have done that, and write it down.
I just thought of something.
Yeah, he loved that.
Did he love it?
He loved that.
Yeah. But he was with you all the way. I mean, he's very supportive, I'm sure.
Extremely supportive, yeah.
Well done. Okay.
Yeah.
So, from your point of view, an editor is just an
Absolutely
advice.
vital, yes.
And did you feel that it was needed in certain aspects of your writing?
Yeah, of course. You can't be all things. You write it, you've got the storyline. That was the most important thing. And she allowed me to do what I wanted to do with the book and the characters. What she did was advise, which was the most important thing. You can't have an editor who rewrites the book. That's not what their job is. And their job is to help you to enhance your book and to make it the best you can. And she said I could do this edit, or I can do it to make the book the best possible. And I said, that's what I want.
And she has. And you both have.
She has,
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot in the book about, as you were saying, about special forces and so forth. Obviously, you know about the business world. Did you have to do a lot of research, and how did you do that regarding the special forces?
Well, the research, again, is a really important aspect of the book. And it makes it so much easier now. We've got Google and Wikipedia, and it's easy. I've got a friend of mine who was in special forces, and he was out in the Middle East, in Afghanistan, he was in the Falklands, and he helped me advise about army life, how you'd deal with different situations, what guns they would use, how they would get in and out undercover from different situations. I'm also writing a lot about something I don't know, apart from the army, which is Syria. And when the book was set, when Steve Granger and Sean O'Connor were out in Syria, it was in 1999. So it's before the current troubles. So it was a bit of a challenge. But it's the most important thing, because if you get it wrong, the readers are going to be the first people to say, well, I know about that, that can't be right. How could he have an AK-47 or Kalashnikov rifle when, he's should be having a gun or something in his hand.
Smith and Wesson.
A gun of some kind.
A Smith and Wesson.
Yeah.
I've actually
you
seen.
can tell I've done really good research.
I mean, you've done a lot of research.
It reads better in the book, I have to say.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of reviews on books where someone's used a terminology or used a setting or a theme, and a reviewer said, I was like a secret agent, or Secret Service, they didn't use this, you haven't got your facts right. So it's so important to do your research. So with this guy, from the Special Forces? How did you speak to him on the phone? Did you Skype him? Did you
Yeah, I was speaking on the phone basically and
Yeah.
nagging him all the time. Can you tell me what would happen in this situation? How did you get... Because they went into Syria via the Golan Heights in Israel. So what were the conditions in the Golan Heights? What would you come up against? What were your obstacles during that time? How would you get from Israel to Damascus? What would you wear? How would the people react to you? So that was very important. And he was really good. I cannot mention his name because he's still...
Secret.
He's secret, yes. He's
It's not in the
still
book somewhere.
governed under official secrets, etc. But he was invaluable to me.
Okay, so obviously my next question is, who do you actually write for? You've got so many subjects within the book, so you're writing for a number of people.
I am.
And obviously
Well, I don't
yourself.
think, I write for myself really, and now it's become a passion. I write for the potential reader. I mean, it's not gender specific for this. It's any age, any male, female. I don't think it's someone who's interested in a thriller and adventure. It's a corporate book. They call it a white collar thriller.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
there
it.
we go.
Yeah, so it's a corporate book. It involves insider dealing, as I said, and lots of corporate things and things about offshore jurisdictions, which I'm an expert on. So I write, I suppose, primarily for myself because I just love it.
I'm an onshore expert, so I love the beach.
Do you?
I love laying in the beach.
Just shore.
To shore.
Mm.
Your writing habits. I mean, everyone has their own writing habits.
Yes.
If there's any budding authors out here, they may lay on their bed with their laptop on their lap or go on the desk or in the garden, look out the window. Well, do you have any writing habits of music or the TV on in the background?
No music. I like to be enclosed in my office and I write. I like to go to my house in Spain because the view is over the mountains. I find that really relaxing. And I go out there on my own and I just spend the whole weekend or week just writing. I don't have, I sit in the kitchen and write or whatever, and it doesn't, I'm usually after work or in the evenings, weekends when Pete's in bed with a migraine, I get a lot of spare time.
Other than yourself,
Yes.
who's read the book, obviously, who was the first person to read your book?
Peter, I would
Okay.
say. But he didn't get very far in it because I kept changing it because it's a sort of, it carries on writing. So how I started at the beginning, I said, do you want to read this? And he'd read the first few chapters. Oh, it's really good, I really like that. What's happening next? Well, I haven't written that yet. So I come
You
back
tell
to,
me.
yeah, so I come back to him a month later. You can read the next 3 chapters. Okay, but I said, but you have to read the first 3 again because I've rewritten those. So it was, he never really caught up, and I don't think he's touched it for about 6 months now. Have you? No. A man of few words.
Okay, anybody else who's read the book? In your family or friends?
My daughter.
Okay, what's her view?
I think she was really surprised, actually.
Yeah.
I don't think she expected it to be like it was. I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. So,
Excellent, okay. As it is, as I mentioned earlier, International Women's Day.
it is.
Again, you give her an applause, you wish. When is it International Men's Day?
You don't have one.
They
You don't
do
need
that.
one.
No, we have one every day.
Yeah, you never need one.
I'll have a local one, not an international one.
Yeah. Boreham Wood Men's Day.
Bournemouth Men's Day. And as you are a businesswoman, as we've ascertained, who inspired you as a businesswoman? Who's your inspiration?
Do you mean who inspired me generally?
Generally, as a businesswoman, who do you look up to? Being 5'2", you probably look up to a lot of people, but there we go.
I have to say that my inspiration came from my dad originally, and I think he taught me to be the person I am today. Same with my brothers and sister. His background was very much tragic, I think. He escaped from Germany with Kindertransport when he was 12 via Sweden, came to the UK with nothing to his name apart from a few photos and just a plaque round his neck with his name on it. For him to come out of that, to be the man he was, unfortunately I don't think he ever fulfilled his potential because he passed away when he was 39. But I think we've come out of it much stronger, and I think my brothers will agree that we are who we are today because of him. And he taught me an awful lot. I mean, I think being the eldest, and I was 12 when he died, I think I got the best benefit from him because he instilled in me who I am and to be the best I can be. So I'd say that he was my inspiration, and I just hope that I make him proud.
I'm sure you do.
And also, I suppose, I mean, from a woman's point of view, I recently saw a television programme about Karen Brady. And I can't believe at 23 she was the chief exec, of Birmingham football. And the prejudices and what she had to go through to get her mark made in that club and on the world in general. I started my business life back in the 80s, I suppose, and it was even more difficult what you had to go through. You had to be better than a man in meetings, in business, and lots of times I was in a meeting, and because I was the only woman there, and I was there in my own right, I was asked to make the tea or take notes, and I absolutely refused. I said, "We'll get one of the girls in." But one of the other girls, I think she's quite inspirational.
We're going to have another reading shortly, but I want to ask a question before you do. What would you say is the most controversial aspect?
I suppose a lot of it, people would say that it's due to Sydney's ability to speak to spirit. A lot of people are very sceptical of that. I find it very interesting. I like the fact that she can do that she can understand people's agenda, which you don't often see when you're speaking to people or in meetings, and that she has an inside knowledge to events that are taking place around her, which help her. So I suppose that is quite controversial, really. A lot of people won't like that idea of it, but I find it very interesting.
You wrote it.
I wrote it, so it must do.
It must be. Okay, so what are you going to read for us now?
Okay, glasses. So this is, I didn't want to read too much into the book because I thought I didn't want to give the game away on anything but this is chapter 2 really, and this is Sydney just arriving in London to go to a meeting with her client Rupert van der Hausen from South Africa. Okay, so she's now in the taxi on the way to the meeting.
Okay.
As the taxi snail-paced along the Euston Road from King's Cross Station and up towards University College Hospital on the left, the traffic lights turned red and the taxi once again came to a standstill. The driver moaned, wiping the dripping sweat away from his forehead. The trip was interminable. Sydney sighed, glanced at her watch again, and became aware of a coldness along the length of her right side. She felt the hairs on her arms stand on end and recognised the feeling she knew so well. She waited, wondering who was there. Was it someone connected to the taxi driver? She really didn't have time for this today. Then she understood, because a middle-aged man in blue striped pyjamas jumped into the taxi and sat down next to her. The sense of him invaded her whole being, and even more goosebumps bristled along her arm. She looked ahead at the driver and could see he was still concentrating on the road. Were he to look in his mirror, he would undoubtedly see a smart, self-assured businesswoman with an air of confidence and success, sitting alone in the back of his cab because Sydney chose to communicate with spirit telepathically. "I was in that hospital over there," the man pointed out to her to his left. "Room up there on the 5th floor. I've no idea what I'm doing here with you." He moved his head from side to side, as if trying to fathom things, and she picked up on his feeling of frustration and bewilderment. "Last thing I knew, I was in my bed with my wife holding my hand and my kids sitting next to me. Now I seem to be going somewhere. What the hell's happening here?" The view of the busy and noisy London road changed that of a quiet and sterile hospital room. By tuning into the man using her power of vision, Sydney was shown where he had lain in his bed, with tubes in his arm and an oxygen mask over his face. Everyone was talking in whispers around him, and his wife and 3 children were weeping. It was apparent every breath was painful as his face contorted with the rise and fall of his chest, while nurses moved around him checking he was comfortable. When Sydney saw the man's spirit rise above his body as he took his last breath, she understood exactly what had happened, and the sense of sadness around him took her breath away. The love that came through to her from the man and his family was overwhelming, and tears welled up in her eyes. She turned and looked at him, reached out to hold his hand. Of course she had time for this.
If that doesn't get you gripped,
What
nothing.
could?
What could? As I say, the book will be available to be personally signed by you after this Q&A. Obviously, you're a businesswoman, you're the author. Who do you attribute your success to? I know you've discussed your family and so forth.
To be successful, you have to have this something inside you to want to be successful. I think you have to be very determined, which I have been all my life, and wanting to do well and be the best that I possibly can. This is just another step in, I suppose, in...
it's another umbrella.
Another umbrella, yes.
Umbrella for you.
The umbrella behind her smile.
The umbrella, well, yeah, everything. That's the third book. What's the most useful advice, not in business, but in writing, has someone given to you?
Be honest, write with integrity. I think that's be true to yourself, how you want to write, and don't let people put you off what you're doing.
So don't be put off. You know, with the reviews, you've received fantastic reviews so far.
Fantastic reviews.
How does that make you feel?
I'm overwhelmed by it, really. Yeah.
You're surprised?
Well, you know,
because you're putting yourself out there.
I'm putting myself so out there, and I don't do that. I mean, people think I am, but I don't sit on stages and be interviewed. This is not me, really.
You were doing this last night at the Palladium. You're used to it by now.
So I should be, yes.
Yeah. Regarding the book, what is your personal and professional goals? What do you want to see in the future?
Well, I'm continuing writing still. I'm on my sequel. Are you going to ask me about that?
I will be, yes.
Okay.
Yes. We have planned this, you know.
I know. I'm pretending we haven't.
I know, it's exactly. What's your personal goals?
Yes. I'm not aiming to be the best author in the world. Well, I'd like to be, I suppose. But I think really just to be recognised for the achievement that I've had.
Yeah, I mean, writing a book is no feat, you know. It's fantastic.
It's 3 years of hard work, and really hard work. And, I've spent a lot of time on this.
You were talking about the sequel. Tell us a little bit about that.
The sequel. This book ends on a cliffhanger, I suppose. The sequel hopefully will be out towards the end of the year. So there's a bit of 9 months to wait. I'm about a third of the way in.
Okay.
It's called Where in the Dark. It's a similar theme.
Shadow in the Dark.
Shadows, yeah. It follows the story of Sydney and her children.
How the children were 14.
Yeah, we're 6 months down the line at the end of the book.
So they're still sort of 14.
Yeah, she's still got her love interest, hopefully.
Right. But that's down to you if she has or not.
Yeah, well, I'm still thinking about it. Do you want me to tell you what it's about? Vaguely?
Would you like to tell the audience?
If they'd like to hear.
I'm sure they will.
The book starts with 2 elderly men who receive at the same time in the post a bearer bond for £1 million. They have no idea where it came from or who sent it, and one of them is a friend of Rupert van der Hausen who has asked Sydney Granger to investigate. Just by way of background, the 2 gentlemen are in their 70s and they're Holocaust survivors.
Okay.
And I actually interviewed 2 amazing Holocaust survivors to get the background to the book.
Purposely for the book,
For the book, yes.
And how did you, where was that?
Well, I met them and they gave me an insight into things. And also I wanted to write about the Holocaust. I wanted to use my dad's experiences. Not that we knew anything about it until he died, actually. We had no idea until we found loads of papers. But I thought it was right. That's something I wanted to do.
Okay.
So the story will carry on from there.
Sounds interesting. You know, you want readers to remember the book. What do you want them to actually remember in detail about your book? I mean, you've chosen a lot of subjects, especially with the second book as well. So there's a lot of people to have their own thoughts about. What would you like them to remember you by all their books by?
I think just the fact that I think the book is quite inspirational, not for me as a writer, but for the characters within it. And I think you take that inspiration from Sidney Granger.
Okay. Very. You're as an author now, published author. When you go up to people and they ask you what you do, and you say I'm a businessman or I'm an author, how is their reaction and how do you feel when you say that?
Well, they can't actually believe it, I don't think. So where do you get the time? You know, they're proud of me, my friends and family especially.
I'm sure they are proud of you, because you've written a great book.
Thank you.
I would like to put some questions out to the audience actually at this stage.
Make it easy on me, please.
No, this is your interrogation.
Yeah.
So does anybody have a question they would like to ask Karen at all? Anyone, a person? I feel like David Diggle will be question time.
Hi, Mitch.
Is that Mitch?
Hiya.
Okay, so you described all the process of writing the book and the effort you've gone to and the sleepless nights. How did you feel when you got your physical hands on the book?
It was the most amazing feeling in the whole world. The books arrived in the office and I was just like a little child jumping up and down and running around going, oh my God, my books! And it was just the culmination of so much hard work. And it was an unbelievable feeling, unbelievable.
Any other questions? Lady?
How did you get a publisher? What stage did you start to send, because it's very hard to get a publisher. So what are the steps that you took to do that?
It's absolutely impossible to get a publisher. And I sent my book, first of all, you need an agent, you can't go direct to publishers. And that was a chore in itself. I eventually found an agent, but he wasn't really what I expected. And the publishers these days only publish books for well-known authors. It's absolutely impossible to do it. And you don't go direct. And the main reason is that they only look at it from the economical point of view. And there's such a small margin in a book, the time that everyone takes their cut. So I actually set up my own publishing company, as I do, and called King of the Road Publishing. And King of the Road, we got the name because it was my dad's favourite song. I think the idea really is to use that to publicise my book, but also to take it to another level and look for more authors to see if I can help publish them as well. Not yet. I've got to finish what I'm doing at the moment, but it's another business enterprise for me, really.
It's the same sort of thing that musicians are now doing, because they just can't get, their stuff.
They can't get it, no.
Yeah,
And self-publishing, I suppose it is self-publishing. I'm trying not to use those words, but it is the thing at the moment. It's the really big way of going forward, I think.
So many self-published authors out there.
Yeah, and they're all doing well.
It is, of course, it
They're all
is
doing
the
well
way forward.
because it's so easy now to put things on Amazon as an ebook. I mean, my book in the first week went to number 2 in the UK, which is unbelievable. It's sitting at the moment at number 10, and it's in the top 30 in America.
Right.
So if I can achieve that on my own, you know.
And it's all to do with that, all to do with marketing, what you do as well.
Marketing is the huge thing.
Absolutely.
Marketing, Facebook, Twitter.
Any other questions, please?
What advice would you give to someone writing a book besides time?
That's a difficult question.
You answer it then.
Well, I'll answer.
Go on, you
Yeah,
answer.
what advice would I give to someone? Know your subject. I think the important thing is to know your subject. It's no good writing a cookery book if you can't cook, for example. So you have to research, and it's best to write about things that you know. And that's what I did. I wrote about business because I know about business. I don't think I could write a book about, I'm trying to think of some analogy.
Football.
I couldn't write a book about football at all. So I write about things you know.
That's
I
what I'm
think that's
saying.
the best advice you can give. Research well and write about what you know.
If you could choose any famous author or celebrity to read your book and ring and say how fabulous it was, who would they be?
I'd love John Grisham to read my book. I just love his books.
Funny that, because tonight,
Eamon.
Eamon,
He started off as a lawyer, and he wrote about what he knew about, which is the legal side of things. And I would love to get some feedback from him, really. I might even try. I'll send it to him.
Send him. Go on his website, right?
Tweet him.
Tweet him, go on his
Yeah.
website. You can't tweet the book, but you can do
No,
the
no.
but send it to him. You
Yeah.
never know.
Me and another million.
Would you consider going to the next stage and having your book made into a film? And if you did, who would you see, have you thought about who you would see perhaps as playing the lead character, Sydney? Has that crossed your mind?
Oh, not much. I would love to have this made into a film, and I am in the process of approaching a few screenwriters for it. I always had Suran Jones in mind for the lead role. I don't know, do you remember she was in Corrie and she's been in loads of series. Kate Winslet was probably a good one, I think. We've discussed
Funny you should say that.
Yeah, she's here as well. So, I think, I mean, any person like that would be good. I just, to have it as a film would be amazing, or a TV series.
You share it. I mean, it's how many chapters within the book?
It's 30 odd.
30 odd. So you could have it, if it was a TV drama, you could have
You could split it up
yeah,
into,
split it up,
yeah.
absolutely.
Why not? To do anything.
Well, then you have the drama Where in the Dark.
Where in the dark?
Where in the Dark? I don't know Where in the
And then
Dark.
the next one, who's in the dark?
Who's in the dark?
Why are we in the
Why in the
dark?
dark? Help! I'm in the dark.
Get out the dark.
Out the dark.
Yes.
Any other questions at all?
So you mentioned that you've written from your own career experience.
Mhm.
But you also mentioned that there's crime that she uncovers in the novel. So
Yes.
how much of that is your imagination and how much of it is actually things that you witnessed throughout your career?
Oh, well, it's all fictional. Thankfully. No. We don't get involved too much in Boreham Wood in blackmail and fraud. A bit of attempted murder. It's pure imagination, but I use the background for the storyline as part from my business knowledge because my experience is in putting together structures, company structures, shareholder structures. So I use that. And also my experience from working in the US as well, with stock markets and business people. So I was able to incorporate all of that into it.
Anyone else got a question?
What have you learned about yourself from this experience of writing?
You can spell.
I can spell,
You can
yes.
spell.
What have I learned about myself? That I can do whatever I set my mind to do, and that I can achieve whatever I want to achieve. What else have I learned about myself? Patience.
So we ask other people.
I'm not the most patient of people. And I've had to learn to be patient because once you start writing, I wanted that book out there. It's hard to wait the 3 years, even though I was still writing it. And now I want to get on to the next bit. So that's what I've learned, to be patient.
Well, once tonight's over and done with, you can.
Yes, true.
Okay? Once tonight's over and done with. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else has a question at all?
I'm curious whether writing the book was a healing experience for you to come to piece from the past and then
Good question. It was cathartic, I think, because putting things down on paper is very good for you. It's a good experience. It is cleansing. Talking about Sydney's father in there brought it all back to me about my father and how I felt when he died when I was only 12. So writing it down and talking about it, I think was really good for me.
Gentleman over there?
As you see Sydney in the picture, is she real? Is there a person out there who,
No.
is she a figment of?
No, she's imaginary, she's fictional, but she's based on me, dare I say it, in some ways. I think she's the epitome of a successful businesswoman, and I think she's someone that women could aspire to be like. But no, it was, I used some literary license to make her how she is, really.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one question. I think it's about 9 o'clock-ish.
Yeah, we're done.
We're done. So
I'm
that
done.
hour and 15 minutes went pretty quickly. So one more
Yeah.
question before we leave the stage. How is your book different to others out there on the market?
God.
In 3 words.
I can't do
Hashtag 3 words.
Can't do 3 words.
No, I know.
How's
Of course
it
you
different? No. How's it different? Because I wrote it.
I wrote it. 3 words. That's it.